Okay, so this is a while loop in C. So we have the main function, which we always have to have a main function, right? It's of type int, okay? Because it's of type int, we have to return a 0. We have to return a 0. Okay, if this was of type void, we could just leave out the return statement, all right? Okay, so main, we have to have our open and close parentheses. We have to have our curly brace that defines the code block that is the function main, okay? Because it's an int, like I just said, because it's of int type, it has to return an integer, in this case 0. Now let's take a look at the code that actually makes the while loop, okay? So in this case, we have to define a counter. Now we could do different types of loops, but in this case, we're just going to define a counter, and that we're going to call it counter. That's the name of it. It's going to be of int type. We're going to assign it a value of 1, and we have our semicolon at the end of the line, okay? All right, so we have our counter. Now we do a condition, okay? We use the while keyword, okay? And then open and close parentheses, and inside there we have some Boolean statement that we use as a condition. So something that's going to be true or false. In this case, we have counter is less than 11, all right? Now you can think of a while loop as just an if statement that repeats itself, okay? So if the condition is true, it runs the lines of code inside the code block and then returns to itself to check again. That's all it does. So that's the loop. It's an if statement that just runs a block of code and then rechecks itself and runs a block of code and rechecks itself. If the condition is ever false just one time, it skips down to the end of the code block, in this case line 8, and then continues with line 9 and 10. Okay? All right, so if we have the counter called 1, okay, the counter, which is a value of 1. Okay, it goes to this while loop. It checks for the first time. It says, hey, is counter less than 11? It says, yeah, it counter's 1, so that's true. So it runs line 6 and prints out to the console, this is one iteration. Okay, then it gets to line 7. Counter plus plus is just a way, it's the same thing as saying counter equals counter plus 1. Okay, same exact thing. Okay, but it's just shorthand. And goes to line 10 and ends the program.